Good morning, Insta, and good morning, Facebook. We're live for coffee and questions this morning. Hope everyone's going okay. Should plug this in. That'll work. Hello, Inclusive Personal Training. Hello, Millie. All right, so I've actually been, nobody sent me any questions again this week. Everyone must be completely sorted. So what I'm going to do instead actually is going to talk you through some tips for eating for immunity. But before we get into that, I just wanted to let you know that the weekly menu planning service is open again on the 1st of June. So kicking off with a winter menu. Good morning, Megan. You're kicking off with a winter menu on the 1st of June. So if you missed out on the opening of that last time and you want to get in amongst the weekly menu planning service this time, then keep your eyes peeled for that, because that's opening again end of next week. So I will send out an email sometime today on that, and also next week probably, or if you're in the Dietitian Approved Career Facebook group, then you'll definitely get notified when that's happening as well in there. But yeah, next week it's reopening again, and then it shuts again for another 3 months. So if you wanted to get help with planning your meals each week, then now's your opportunity to do that. And I've got some really good winter warming recipes coming for the next 3 months. I've been cranking up my slow cooker. So slow cooker lamb shakes are coming to the database next week, I think. There's a few other things that have kind of snuck in there, like moussaka as well. So it's going to be delicious. And nutritious, but still nice and sort of warm comfort food, which is good. So that's happening next week. The other thing that's happening is I've got a bit of a triathlon nutrition course going live probably next week after as well. So something I've been working on for a long time, and I just had so many people ask for it that I've kind of bit the bullet and committed to doing it as well. So as well as like all the healthy eating foundations, fundamental stuff that I've been doing, there's a triathlon nutrition course coming out soon as well. So keep your eyes peeled on that. All right, so if you've got any questions, please send them through as we're going. A bit of banter is always good, but might as well get stuck straight into it. If nobody's got any specific questions, where's Facebook? There you are. If nobody's got anything specific they want to jump into straight away, or maybe I'll answer them at the end as well. So we'll just get stuck into this right now. And then, yeah, feel free to ask questions as we go. Yeehaw, happy Friday. All right, so eating for immunity. I guess I've been talking about this for a little while now, but I wanted to sort of expand on it a little bit further just for my community who are mostly athletes. And so I think, like, as we're heading into winter as well, it's really important that we sort of focus on eating so that we're not getting the common cold and flu in a time where sort of COVID-19 is kicking around as well. So we definitely don't want to get any of them, because a normal cold and flu increases your susceptibility to getting COVID. And it just keeps your immune system down for a while too. So I guess these sort of tips for you are based around people that are active. And I guess just going a little bit deeper into how to support your immune system right now, like beyond what I've talked about so far. So I think it's a really important time to kind of be proactive with your nutrition. And we've talked about that for weeks now, especially if you're active, just because your exercise can either help support your immune system, or it can also damage it too. So I guess my number one tip for making sure that your immune system is supported right now for an active person is making sure you do have enough rest and recovery. Now, a lot of the restrictions are being lifted here in Queensland, so people are definitely getting out more, and it's kind of a bit of a buzz of, all right, cool, let's do this. So it's just still really important, I think, to be careful with that and making sure that we're not going too hard too fast, and making sure that we do get some good rest and recovery. So this is also particularly important if you're in peak training load as well. If you are in peak training, like heading into an event, like it's quite common for people to get sick there. And I guess this is one of the reasons why, in a time where you just don't want to be getting sick as well. I'm just going to drink my coffee so that my brain works better. All right, so we know that moderate intensity helps support our immune system, because what happens when you exercise, you actually send out all your immune cells. They all just go searching for stuff. It causes a big release, and then so they go looking for things. They're kind of like little detectives, or like your alarm system or security cameras. They're starting to look for stuff. So every time you exercise, that happens, that release happens, as long as it's not too strenuous or prolonged or really high intensity, because that type of exercise actually really releases our stress hormones, and we don't want to be doing that too much at the moment. And if we are, then I've got another strategy for you if you do. So heavy training loads, just be careful around that, and I'll give you a tip for how to support that. But we know that our immune system is down for sort of 72 hours after you've done a high intensity session. Okay, so that's a long time, especially if you're a triathlete and you train every day, or you do like big training days on the weekend. And so you've got a big Saturday, Sunday backup, and then your immune system's down until sort of Wednesday, right? And so you might have a lighter day Monday, or you might not. And so you're taking that compromised immune system with you throughout the week and smashing yourself, and also taking that fatigue from the weekend with you through the week as well. So just be careful around that. That's when you're more susceptible, and particularly if you're training outside, you've got a higher chance of picking up pathogens and things from the road. You know, like being outside and picking up stuff, you've got more chance. Less chance if you're at home and you're washing your hands frequently and you're in your own environment. But if you're outside, then you've got more chance of picking up those things as well. All right, so making sure you do have rest and recovery, particularly after those really high intensity prolonged days. Knowing that 72-hour window is there where your immune system is compromised, and you just want to be careful. Okay, so number 2 in terms of athletes is just making sure you have enough energy available for training. So we kind of touched on this last week a little bit, but we definitely want to avoid low energy availability at the moment. So last week I gave you my tips for your return to training, and part of that is making sure you're eating enough carbohydrate, and making sure you're eating enough energy to support your training load. And you need to adapt to that really quickly. So you need to adapt to that within a couple of days of your training load going up. Otherwise, we do pop ourselves into a bit of low energy availability where we don't have enough energy available for just normal daily function. So for females, it's things like menstrual function. Guys can drop out their male sex hormones quite quickly, and then also our immune system is compromised as well if we don't have enough energy for that normal daily process stuff. So our body supports training first. Good morning, Trudy Graham. Our body supports training first, and then itself second. Makes no sense, but that's what it does. So you need to make sure that you've got enough energy available for training, as well as enough energy available for your daily body processes. And particularly for endurance athletes, I work with a lot of triathletes. So the energy availability for you guys is quite kind of sensitive to your load across the week, and you need to adapt to that ups and downs really quickly. And one of the key things that I always talk about is that you should never eat the same thing every day, because your training's not the same every day. So you need to make sure that you've got some strategy around eating for rest days. You've got some strategy around eating for really heavy training days, and those big long sessions. Good morning, Art. I haven't seen you for a few weeks. I was wondering if you were still alive over there. Okay, so I have written a blog on periodization if you wanted to have a read around what that kind of concept is, but making sure that you are getting what you need across your training week, especially if you're going to start kind of training now and that volume and intensity is going to start to go up, then you need to adapt to that really quickly with nutrition. Okay, so you might not feel hungry because your appetite's a really poor measure of what you actually need. Hart said, still alive but feeling like I don't even know what that emoji is, Art. I can't see it. What was I talking about? Brain, come on, coffee, kick in. Oh, it's a zombie. Thanks, Art, for clarifying. Periodization, we're talking about periodization. something around, I've lost it. I've lost my train of thought. Your zombie emoji got me out. So yeah, having the ability to scale up and scale down quickly, I think is, I guess, the summary of what I was trying to say. So have a read of the blog that I wrote on periodization. You can just search for it on the blog page and write periodization, it'll come up, or I can link it here as well. But it's definitely a skill, and I want you to adapt quickly. So that's what I was talking about, is being able to adapt quickly. So it's all good art. My coffee hasn't kicked in yet, so my brain doesn't work at full cylinders just yet. Maybe we should do these later in the day when I'm firing on all cylinders. You guys are getting me at my worst. Okay, so yeah, adapting quickly. If we're starting to kind of come out of isolation a little bit, we're starting to get back into group training, that might be a bit more regularity to people's training pattern. So making sure you do adapt your nutrition to that quickly, because in 3 days of not eating properly, a female can drop their menstrual function. So it's really important that you get on top of that. And if you have no idea what you're doing, then you need a sports dietitian to help you, because it's something that is really important. It's like one of the foundations of eating as an athlete, is to be able to adapt your nutrition to your training. So I definitely would encourage you to have a bit of a plan and discussion with somebody around that, so that you know exactly what you need to do for you, because your appetite's a terrible measure. Okay, it's going to take a week or two for your appetite to catch up to what you actually need. So don't rely on not being hungry to not eat, or also being quite sort of like starving, ravenous, picky. Is also not necessarily a good indication that you need food then. It's probably more an indication that you needed it a couple of days ago when you did heavy training, and that's your body's message saying, hang on a minute, you didn't give me enough food a couple of days ago, let's catch up now. Okay, so number one was rest and recovery, making sure you are getting that, and knowing that your immune system's compromised for 72 hours after really high intense training. So just be strategic around your training program, and then making sure you have enough energy available for the sessions. Good morning, Owen. And that you're adapting to that really quickly as well, okay? And then number 3 is making sure that you are eating carbohydrate. Okay, so I guess carbs is often the first thing that goes when people are like, yep, all right, I'm gonna lose weight, let's drop carbs, okay? But if you're an active person and you're an athlete, then you need carbohydrate, and it's just having an understanding of how much you need. Good morning, Eloise and Eduardo on Insta. Having an idea of how much you need and when, so that you are responsive to that as well. So you can do some training on low glycogen stores, so low carbohydrate, that's fine. But then you also need to do some training sessions with high carbohydrate stores, so high glycogen, and having some structure and, strategy around that as well. So I guess that's kind of the periodization concept. But we know that doing really high intensity sessions and prolonged sessions does release stress hormones. I think things like cortisol, and that suppresses your immune response after that training session for a while, and that makes you more susceptible to getting sick. So if you're training glycogen depleted, so fasted, haven't eaten a lot of carbohydrate for a couple of days potentially, or you're training after like a big session and you haven't topped them up again, so there are a couple of ways that you could be training glycogen depleted, then we know that those stress hormones are definitely increased. But if you have enough carbohydrate in your diet to match that, it's protective, and it makes sure that there's not as much stress on the immune system if you're doing that. So if you constantly get sick, like one of the things that you could look at is carbohydrate. Or if you constantly get sick heading into a big race, when your stress hormones are probably a little bit elevated anyway, just with nerves and things, but also I guess because you're probably in that peak training load, then throwing a bit of extra carbohydrate at the system then is a good strategy to just kind of let the body relax and go, it's okay, we've got enough fuel on board, you can chill, get rid of these stress hormones. Good morning, Catherine. So yeah, I guess it's just having an understanding of what your carbohydrate needs are, which a sports dietitian can help you with, and then scaling them across your week as well. So it's that periodization concept. And because your carbohydrate needs, unless you're doing the same thing day in, day out, which some people do, but I guess not the athletes that I work with, then you shouldn't be eating the same thing each day. Like, it's one of the key messages that I like to drum home is that you should not eat the same thing each day unless your training is exactly the same each day. And if your training is exactly the same each day, then you're probably not getting the results that you want anyway. So it's time to shake things up. So yeah, definitely work with somebody that has some knowledge around carbohydrate and how much you need and the timing to fit in with your training schedule. All right, so that was number 3. Number 4, which shouldn't come as a surprise to you if you've been listening in for a while, is to just make sure that you're eating the rainbow. So making sure you're getting lots of fresh fruit, fresh veggies, so that we can get a wide variety of vitamins and minerals. And if you can't get fresh at the moment, that's totally fine. You can do things like frozen. There's still plenty of nutrients in them, just as long as you don't cook the crap out of them. So like frozen veggies are totally fine. But if you're boiling them, all those nutrients are going to leach into the water. And if you're cooking them for forever and they're like colours draining out of them, then chances are all those water-soluble vitamins are going out in that water as well. And so you're kind of getting all the fibre, which is great, but you're probably not getting all those micronutrients. So we put a quiz on during the week on Wednesday about some of the key nutrients that are really good for your immune system and making sure that we're not deficient in any of them, which most people shouldn't. Like, you shouldn't be if you're eating a wide variety of foods, but if you don't eat a wide variety of foods, then potentially it's something, I guess, to keep in mind. So you need to focus on things like zinc and iron and magnesium, and then we've got our vitamins A, C, D, E. All of those guys are quite key for immunity. So just making sure we're not deficient in any of them, and you'll be fine. You don't need to supplement as long as you have a wide variety of foods. So making sure you get lots of fresh fruit and veggies, and the more colours, the better too. So if you find that you gravitate to the same colours all the time, or you get the same veggies every week, then you want to make sure that you're trying to increase that diversity so that you've got at least 30 different plant foods each week. And that can include your fruit and veggies, but it can also include like your legumes, nuts and seeds and whole grains and things as well. So all those plant-based foods, making sure you get 30. Okay, so I guess in terms of variety, just try and pick up 1 or 2 new things this week that you haven't had for ages, or you haven't had before, just to try and get that variety and more colours on your plate too. So rather than just eating all green or just all red or things like that, like carrots, you could always buy things like the purple carrots occasionally, instead of sticking to orange all the time, or same things as like capsicum. We always kind of gravitate towards red, but why don't you try and pick up some orange and yellows and greens so that you've got that different variety of colours there, so you get a wider variety of nutrients. All right, now final point number 5 is you need to make sure you're not dehydrated to keep your immune system super supported. It's a bit left field, I guess, but our saliva is one of our first lines of defense, and we have these immune proteins in our saliva, and when we're dehydrated, those protein levels decrease, so we don't have that initial frontline defense in our mouth to kind of munch through all those bacteria and get rid of them. So make sure you're not dehydrated, and I guess if you're feeling thirsty, then the chances are that you're already a little bit dehydrated. So, and especially in the colder months, so talking about that now as we head into winter here and down under, you often don't feel as thirsty because you don't notice yourself sweating as much, but you are still losing heaps of fluid when every time you breathe out, you lose some. And then I guess going to the toilet as well, you're losing fluid. So you are still losing. It's just really important that you make sure you're putting it back in, even if you don't feel that kind of thirst sweat response that you do in the height of summer. For you guys that are in the Northern Hemisphere right now, you're heading into that. So making sure that you're not dehydrated through the colder months here down under in winter, because we do want that first line in defense in our mouth, those salivary proteins, to fend off any bad guys that head in that direction. All right, so they were like 5 points for me for eating for immunity that I'll post up here later. that I guess are just another sort of like a little, going a bit deeper into what we've been talking about for the last couple of months, and particularly, I guess, for my athlete population clients who are starting to get back into training now, and we're heading into winter. So I definitely think you need to be a bit more proactive in your approach, and everyone kind of is thinking about it more at the moment as well. So I hope that's given you a couple of strategies just to help through this phase. If you need any more specific help, the Stay Healthy During Isolation course is live, and that goes through a whole range of these key things that are so important for right now. So the foundations of getting all those vitamins and minerals and fiber, keeping your gut happy and healthy, the type of exercise you should be doing at the moment and how to support it. Sleep as well is also really key for your immune system, and we talk in detail about that. And then I go through how to read a food label to help you make some choices around that in the shops, and some healthy snacking stuff as well. So there's heaps of good information in there. I'm so stoked with the course, if I don't say so myself. I've been working on it for months, and there's so many gold nuggets in there. So definitely, I'll pop the link in here, but you can have a look at it later and see what you think. It's definitely worth doing because it's something that I'd like to teach all of my clients, to go through all these kind of fundamental things as we start and go through things. So whether you're an athlete, a non-athlete, all these concepts I'm going to go through with you at some point anyway. So why not do it now from the comfort of your own home? All right, so Catherine has asked, just casually asking for some study snack recommendations instead of the lollies I seem to have reached for lately. Is higher protein better or higher carb? So I guess you need to ask yourself, Catherine, why you're eating lollies. Is it procrastination, or are you hungry, or have you done some training and not eaten enough carbohydrate, or you're bored? But sometimes having a bit of a planned snack when you're studying is a good idea, so that you don't kind of procrastinate a snack. So you need my Stay Healthy During Isolation course, because there's a whole module on snacking in there, and it teaches you how to manage that sort of 3:30itis snack attack, or what did Megan say? Snackcidents. But maybe some suggestions that's quite nibbly might be some popcorn. You can get nice sort of plain popcorn, and you could have sort of up to 3 cups of that. Just put it in a bowl. Yeah, you're procrastinating snacker. So it's not that it's not that you're hungry, it's just boredom. So why don't you get a big jug of water, like a 2-litre jug of water, and a glass, put some ice in it or something, or some lemon or some lime or something to jazz it up a little bit, and do that with your hands instead of eating if you can purely just procrastinate snacking. You could also have something to play with. Like I don't know if you guys noticed, but I've always like got something to play with in my fingers when I'm on here. Like there's pens, there's like things around. So I often look down when I watch the replay, and it's because I'm like playing with something in my hands. So just keeping your hands entertained. But you probably also just need to focus, Catherine, on what you're doing. And use your tomato timer. Like, have you ever done the Pomodoro technique, where you set your timer to go for sort of 20 or 30 minutes, where you've got to focus. Actually, we've talked about this before. Focus, and then have a 5-minute break, and then do another 20 to 30 minute block and focus, and then have another 5-minute break. So she said, I also notice I do it when I'm working late and my brain is a bit fatigued. Yeah, so you probably just need to stop in that in that instance if you can, or go and have a quick power nap, or run around the block, or just do something to get the blood flow back to your brain if you're feeling fatigued. But I'd probably try, if you're not hungry and there's no need to be eating, and it's purely procrastination and boredom, then I'd probably try some other strategies other than food, because it's quite a bad habit that I see a lot of people in. And I kind of have to retrain it out of people, is eating. Like Emma likes to eat chocolate bullets when she's marking school assignments and things, and she's had that habit for years, and so we're trying to break it, and it's quite hard to break it. So I'd encourage you to try and use non-food if you can, so things like water, or some other strategy, so that it's not food. like, I don't know, start cleaning or something in your 5-minute breaks, or do something productive. Or herbal tea or soda water or something like that, like something that isn't like chocolate, lollies, junk food. Try and think of something that is even like carrot sticks. Why don't you do something like carrot sticks or celery? I know it's not very sexy, like coming from a dietitian saying eat carrot sticks, but it might help you kind of get over that hurdle of doing something with your hands and eating, but without having to eat junk food. Because what happens when you eat things like chocolate and lollies when you're trying to study is you have this big rush of blood sugar levels. You might feel good for a second, and then you have this massive crash, and then that fatigue just comes back again and comes worse, and your brain's not obviously going to be so effective in that phase as well. So want to try and, I guess, avoid that if you can. What'd she say? I'm also trying to reduce caffeine intake. What are you doing that for? I tried to do that as well. I'm good. I'm back to 1 coffee a day for anyone that cares. I did it. Woo! Just need a bit more sleep. So Catherine said I did buy some tea the other day. Yeah, my favourite tea brand, and they don't pay me to say this, is Pucker. I discovered it in the UK a while ago, and they have beautiful flavours. I really like the peppermint and licorice one, because it kind of, the licorice one has got a little bit of sweetness to it, which kind of helps in that like post-meal sweet craving that people have. And then the mint's nice and refreshing. So you can get that brand at Coles now. You can't get my favourite flavour, the mint and licorice, at Coles, but you can get a few of those things, or you can get like a mixed box. Janet says, I tried Pucker. I liked it. Yeah, it's really good. They've got like a 3 mint. They've got heaps of different flavours. It's about $7 or $8 for a box, so it's not the cheapest tea going around. So it might help you savour it a bit more, but it has a really nice flavour profile. So yeah, give Pucker a go. Kat on Facebook says, I'm trying to set up good habits, so I'm focusing on drinking 2 litres of water a day. Don't eat any junk food. Try and get good spread of nutrients. Good work, Kat. Kat's doing our stay healthy during isolation course. So all of those things that we go through in the course. So good job, Kat. I'm proud of you. All right. Catherine said I bought a peach one and a pomegranate one plus a nice sleep one. T2 sale. Yeah, so some people really like those fruit flavoured teas and some people hate them. So they sound delicious and they smell delicious, but they kind of taste quite sour and tart. So it's just about finding one that you like too, like finding something that hits the spot for you. And then drinking herbal tea is a good way to do something with your hands. Could be something that you do in your 5-minute break of your tomato timer. Your Pomodoro technique is to go and make a tea, and then you're kind of having that as a bit of a brain break. Then you've got something to come back to do with your hands as well. Oh, you're welcome, Kat. Good job, Kat. All right, has anybody got any questions? Otherwise, we'll wrap this up. Good morning, Lee Owen on Facebook. We'll wrap this up, and I'll hopefully see you guys next week. Next week, I think, we're going to talk about triathlon nutrition again, because I'm getting a bit itchy to talk about sports nutrition. So maybe I'll pop a theme in for you guys for next week, and we'll talk about triathlon nutrition. So if you've got anything specific on that, we'll talk through that, because that's my favourite topic and I can talk about it all day. Catherine said she likes pomegranate tea with lime wedges. That'd be a good combo. Has anyone tried that? Catherine's got to go for a run now, and Janet says, I'll catch this one later because I joined towards the end. It's all good, Janet. I'll send out the replay a bit later. It'll be on Instagram TV, it'll be on the Facebook page, and it'll go up on the blog too, I think, later today. So thanks for joining, everyone. If there's no other questions, we might sign out. But yeah, definitely watch the replay if you jumped in late, because I gave you 5 tips for eating for immunity for my active athlete community. So we're going a bit deeper into that sort of vibe. And I guess some things that you may not have thought about. Like, I've noticed a lot of eating for immunity sort of stuff on the internet at the moment. And I guess these are my tips coming from an advanced sports dietitian with that you may not have thought about. So definitely give it a watch back, and I'll also post a link to a blog that I've written on this as well. So just a bit of extra support right now as we're kind of starting to head into training loads again. And if you didn't watch last week, I gave you some really good tips on like managing that return to training, which we're kind of doing at the moment as well as we come out of isolation. So making sure that you're doing the right thing with your nutrition, so that we're not compromising our immune system and not getting sick or injured or anything like that. We're doing the most that we can to be proactive, rather than kind of smashing yourself and then falling into a hole. All right, so Catherine said, when's the lamb shank recipe coming? Next week, Catherine. It's coming. I've just got to finalise it. And then, yeah, next week. Hold your horses. Catherine's already bought lamb shanks for the freezer, so she's like ready. Start warming up your slow cooker and I'll get it to you next week when we launch the winter menu of our weekly menu planning service. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining, and I'll see you next week where we're going to talk about some triathlon nutrition strategies, which is my absolute favourite. All right, see you next Friday.